following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to an all-new edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live football show on the Belly Up Sports Network. We have all kinds of great NFL and fantasy football talk for you this evening. I'm Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove Football Show, and each and every week I am joined by two fantasy experts, and let's bring them on. To my right, is Kevin Wilson. I have to point so I know who is where. Kevin Wilson, he is the senior fantasy writer at bellyupsports.com. He's also the co-host of the Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball show and a special guest all over the Belly Up Sports Network. Kevin, how you doing, man?
Oh, we're doing great. We were just talking about heat a moment ago, and we are seemingly all surviving that. And very excited to be here tonight. Always pleasure. And I am really looking forward to finding out who are the bus pulls up, who are we not getting on. And so this is going to be a fun episode. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we were talking about the heat because Brian Germinaro brings the heat every single time.
That's
He's
right.
to my
Of course.
left over there. He's the co-host of the 3rd and 10 podcast, also a writer on, of course, the fantasy side of Belly Up Sports, as well as fantasysports.com, bellyupsports.com. I'll get there one of these days. It'll happen. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. You know, I'm trying to beat the heat up here in the Northeast. We've had a heat wave. We watched the match earlier. It's the hottest game in City Field history. So it's brutal up here right now. But you know what? Thank God for air conditioning.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm wearing long sleeves because in my studio, it is always frigid, even though the rest of the house is not always. But the studio's nice and cool always, so I got to throw on some long sleeves and make me feel a little better about myself. But guys, I'm excited to be here. Another episode, of course, presented by Belly Up Sports. Make sure you check it out, bellyupsports.com. There's fantasy articles as well as articles about the NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, and all kinds of other things as well. And on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, you're going to find some great content, including the 3rd and 10 podcast, the Sports Stove Football Show, and other places around that you can find Kevin Wilson appearing on occasionally as well. All right, so today we've got we're kind of putting a bow on Dynasty talk for a little while. Next week we'll jump into the redraft stuff. We actually dropped our initial PPR rankings this week with the top 30 rankings cumulative between the three of us on there, and we'll talk about that next week as well. But you can find that on bellyupsports.com underneath the fantasy football tab. But guys, today we're going to be looking at several things, and last week we looked at who we're riding with throughout this year. And this week in segment number 1, we're doing the exact opposite. Segment 1, we call it the lead block. All right, so our lead block segment today, what we're looking at is we pull the bus up. That person's sitting at the bus stop, and we pretend like we don't see them, and we drive off without them. We're looking ultimately at the duds this year. 4 duds that we're not riding with this year. Last week, by the way, great stuff. If you missed the episode, you can find it on the Belly Up Sports YouTube or on the Belly Up Fantasy Live Football podcast as well. It's also all over the Belly Up Sports socials too. But I'm going to give you a quick update. Brian Germinaro is riding with Drake May, Alvin Kamara, Malik Neighbors, and Trey McBride. Where Kevin Wilson is riding with Jordan Love, Kenneth Walker, Malik Neighbors, and Pat Freiermuth. And for fun, I threw mine in there too. Trevor Lawrence, Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, and Tucker Kraft is who we're riding with. So now we're looking at the guys we're staying away from. I kind of look at it. I don't know how you guys took it. I look at it as they're not even on my draft board. These are guys I'm avoiding because I don't think they're worth either the value that they're getting drafted at, or I just think they're going to flop this year in fantasy football anyhow. So, Brian, let's start. I'm assuming that we all do quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end?
Yes.
We did.
Okay, let's start with quarterback then. Brian, who's the quarterback that you're avoiding this year?
I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa. This, it's kind of, I feel like we're on the verge of the end of this Miami window, I guess would be the best way to say it. This offense relies so heavily on speed. A lot of guys getting older. Tyreek's 31. Jalen Waddle's missed games the past few years, so who knows how that's going to affect his speed. A lot of health surrounding Tua with the concussions, as well as, the rest of the roster. He missed 6 games last year. And there's also this concern that teams are starting to figure out McDaniel's system. Like you see, especially when the calendar goes to November, when that cold weather starts, this offense goes dormant. There's no upside with Tua for running. So if the passing game's not working, you're not getting points for him. So I don't like a quarterback like that. I'm staying away.
I like that one a lot, Brian. I've been the anti-Tua guy since he got drafted. And I know it's not always fair, but I'll stick with that as we go on in fantasy football too. Kevin, thoughts on Tua and then your quarterback?
Well, my thoughts on him have always been he is just one hit away from not getting up. And that scares me completely. And when he's on the field, he can be great, and he hasn't, like, one hit out. And I think the Miami offense is degrading. And I'm with you, Brian, on this one. I would want nothing to do with Tua, whether we're talking about Dynasty or any other format.
All right, Kev. So did you pick Tua too, or you got somebody else?
I did not. I did not. So the one I went with is Justin Fields of the New York Jets. And the reason why I'm saying this, I'm not high on him to begin with, but I was doing some research and I was seeing him ranked as high as number 7 overall quarterback in Dynasty. And that is absolutely insane to me. And he's on his 3rd team already. And last year, he averaged 7.7 yards per attempt. That was his career low. 70% of those passes were 10 yards or less. And he's got one receiver, really, Garrett Wilson, and one running back. The rest of the team is still, we don't know what they're going to do. I don't like what they've got surrounding him at all. And we're tied in. We're going to talk about him a little bit later, so I'm not going to mention any more about him. But I am just not in on Justin Fields. And unless you're in maybe a 2-quarterback league, but even then, I am really, really leery, so much leery that I wouldn't take him. So I am, if the bus can pass me right on by, and I wouldn't even give it a wait.
All right. Wow. Strong take here by Kevin Wilson to get us started. And, I look at this very different. Now, the value, I understand that argument, and I can accept that argument. I like Fields. I think that he might be in the best situation he's been in now, maybe yet. He won games in Pittsburgh, and I don't think you could – I think you have to understand he played within what they asked him to do in Pittsburgh too. I agree the talent isn't great in New York, but Wilson's really good. We know.
Well, his last name's Wilson, so there you have that right out of the gate.
I just gave Jets fans PTSD.
But I like Fields. That's an interesting take. I like your thoughts. That's what I always like about Kevin is he has a reason for it. It's never just a hot take. So I do like that. Brian, your thoughts on Justin Fields?
I like what Kevin's saying. Fields is hard because I think he's a good fit for the Jets. I think he'll bring stability to the quarterback position, which is something that New York has not had in a while. But I do think he's right. Like, I think Fields would be a good NFL quarterback, but maybe not good to start in your fantasy lineup.
Good point. Good point for sure. New staff, of course, in New York, too, with Aaron Glenn there. We'll see what the offense looks like. Guys, I'm going to throw out there I have another guy I've been anti pretty much since day one on, and he's yet to play a snap in the NFL, but it's J.J. McCarthy. I'm completely out on J.J. McCarthy. I think it was a reach to draft him where they drafted him. I think it was insane to not re-sign Sam Darnold. Because if you get him on the same deal that Seattle got him on, basically paying him for 2 years, that's a perfect spot for J.J. McCarthy then. But I do not have a lot of inside sources in the NFL. Minnesota is one that I did have a source in, and they were there in camp last year before the injury to J.J. McCarthy, and they said the undrafted kid was outplaying him every single day in practice. And I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to say I don't trust you. And as a Packer fan, I'm ecstatic that J.J. McCarthy's in the conference and starting this year. But I am not fantasy and dynasty. I am completely out on J.J. McCarthy. If he proves me wrong, so be it. I'll admit it. But until then, count me out on J.J. McCarthy. I'm curious your guys' thoughts because he's really the one guy from last year we saw nothing from. Penix we saw very little bit from. McCarthy's the one we didn't really get to. We didn't get to see anything from him. So, what are your thoughts this year with him coming into Minnesota? Obviously, Justin Jefferson's there. They've got a great tight end there as well. Decent run game. But what are your thoughts on J.J. McCarthy this year, fantasy wise?
Well, I'll go behind you and say that because I saw, doing research that some people have J.J. McCarthy over Jordan Love. And that is absolutely insane.
I want them in my league.
Yes. If you want to go ahead and if somebody's ahead of me and they want to take J.J. McCarthy and or Justin Fields, I'm completely happy with that. So, as you mentioned, he's got the offense around him, but he hasn't thrown a pass, and until he does, I'm not buying it. And so I'm with you on this one.
All right, Brian.
JJ McCarthy's tough for me because he's in such a good offense, and we've seen what Kevin O'Connell can do with quarterbacks, and he did pick JJ McCarthy. Like, I know he didn't have the first overall pick, but he saw at least something in McCarthy that goes, I can work with this. So I don't think he should be taken higher than Jordan Love, don't get me wrong. But if you're in your dynasty league and you're late in there and he's still sitting there in like the later rounds, I'm all for taking a flyer on him and have him be a backup somewhere because he could be a really good spot start. He just have a hot game where, he hits Jefferson for a few passes, get a couple touchdowns. He could get you 14 points, 15 points in a bye week when you need it.
And he does get to play the Bears twice. So
yeah.
You just never know. All right, great. Let's go to running backs next. Kevin, you kick us off with the running back.
All right. So the running back that I am out on, and I know this is probably not that hot of a take, but it's Tony Pollard of the Tennessee Titans. Completely out on this guy. His touchdowns, he went from 9 years ago to 6 to 5. He's averaged 4.0 and 4.2 yards per carry the last 2 years. And he's been completely exposed as a guy that any kind of heavy usage just grinds him down. I am not about to give any kind of draft, to this guy. He has no touchdown catches in his last 2 years. And then to make things worse, he's got Tajay Spears behind him, who has 4 rushing touchdowns and a pass touchdown last year. So it might be okay, this tandem in real life of football. I don't think that's going to be the case either. But in fantasy, especially dynasty, I am absolutely out on Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I think I'm out on the Titans running backs as a whole for the most part. I don't know that I'd say they're undraftable like I would with some other people, but not happy if I get stuck with that and nothing else. All right, Brian, thoughts on that pick for Kevin and then your running back as well.
I think it's a great pick. I thought about him. I really did. The only thing that kept me from it was he did well with Dallas in a running back by committee, so maybe he recaptures that, but I'm staying away from him. For me, similar situation. I'm going with Joe Mixon. This is the Texans brought in Nick Chubb, so we're expecting probably a 60-40, 50-50 split. These are two very, both aging running backs to begin with, and two decent running backs. They need touches, so they're going to cannibalize each other, steal yards, steal touchdowns. I don't want to have to play like, well, is this week the week Mixon's going to get favored? Is this the week Chubb's going to get favored? I'd rather just stay away from it entirely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of a wait and see aspect on those guys because you don't want to draft Mixon high and then, get screwed over by handcuffs every week, and got to see how they're going to, proportion out those touches and things like that. And obviously we won't know that till the season gets rolling because they're not going to tell us going into the year
No.
either, because they're not very nice like that.
That'd be nice.
That would, wouldn't it? We'll reach out. We'll reach out to the Texans to see if we can get a comment on that as well. Kevin, you got thoughts on Mixon?
Well, the thing that would really, let's say that we have established dynasty teams already, and I had Joe Mixon on my team. This maneuver that the Texans made would not make me happy, even a little bit, because that really cuts into his value. And so now you either have – there's no either, because no one's going to want to give you anything of value if you try to trade him now because of the split carries possibility. And as you mentioned, Brian, he's older now. And if it wasn't for the signing, I would like Joe Mixon, but that's not the case anymore. So I'm passing him by as well.
All right, my pick would be Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh. I really think Caleb Johnson's gonna overtake him, and that might be another kind of handcuff kind of situation there too. Ultimately, I just don't see Warren as being the primary guy, or at least if he is, for not very long there this season in Pittsburgh. So I'll go that direction there. I really thought Kevin was going to say Ramondre Stevenson. That's what I expected to hear from him. But I think there's a few of those guys around this year that we could talk about for sure. All right, let's go to wide receivers next. Brian, kick us off with wide receiver.
I have Deebo Samuel. This is a guy that is getting a lot of hype because of new change of scenery. He's in, a more elevated offense. We saw last year with Jaden Daniels, and not be, have Terry McLaurin, so he should be getting good matchups. But a big reason why Samuel was a top 25 receiver in the years he did was that running upside. That running upside does not exist anymore in Washington. They have a rushing quarterback in Daniels. They have Brian Robinson Jr. as their primary back. I know Austin Eckler is more receiving back, but he could, touch the ball every now and then. I just don't see where he's going to get that running upside. So now we got to lean on him being solely passing. Well, he finished with 670 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. That's not something I would want from some people saying a wide receiver too. I would just stay completely away from him. I think he could be a major bust this year in fantasy and just maybe not even work out at all in Washington.
I saw a social media post that called him Eddie Lacy 2.0 with his weight. It looks like some weight gain on there. So, he's not looking super crisp right now in camp right now. So we will see. That's an interesting. I thought about that one too. I like that one. Kevin, thoughts on Deebo and then your receiver?
Well, I can't hate him as much now that he's off the 49ers.
That's my job now.
Yeah, that's your job over there. So, but I don't like the offensive fit for him. I don't like the fact that he's been hurt last couple of years. His rushing upside, there is none. And so we're talking about this guy is a wide receiver 3 to me at best in fantasy. And in a dynasty, he's older, he's injury prone. So wide receiver 3s, no. Somebody is going to take him because of his name way too early, and that's not going to be me.
Yeah. All right. Kevin, who's your wide receiver?
So my wide receiver is the guy that I was huge on when he first came into the league. I really liked the situation that he came into, but now, and it's Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. I really, really liked him. He had over 1,000 yards receiving his first year, and but he has 2 concussions, has no quarterback. We don't know who that's going to be, and I'm going to get into something about this a little bit later. But it's there's nothing to like other than one running back in the entire New Orleans offense, and that's Kamara, of course. But other than that, I would be stuck with this guy because I would have taken him way back in the day when he first came into the league, because like I said, I really liked him. But now you're going to be stuck with this guy, and he's supposed to be you took him as a potential wide receiver 1,
right?
Which he's been, but that's no longer. He's wide receiver 3 at the best. He has no kind of tradable value to me, And so the bus is going to pass me by with Chris Olave because there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, that's a good one. Injury is a major concern there with Olave for sure. I really thought you were going DK Metcalf there for a second, Kevin, because he came into the Seattle on your Seattle guy, and
that's too bad for him that he decided that he'd rather be somewhere besides Seattle. Well, there you have it. Yeah. And now you've got a quarterback who's getting ready to take his AARP benefits.
Yeah, but he brings the gummies with him as a previous quarterback.
That's right, But he's in a better situation than Chris Olave is.
Yes, I agree.
So out on Chris Olave.
I'm going to go DJ Moore in Chicago. They got the young guns in now. I just think that at this point, if you're going to draft a Bears receiver, you're going with one of the new guys, Dunze from last year, of course, or the Mizzou rookie this year, or you're going tight end with Chicago this year with Loveland. Way before you're going DJ Moore. I just think his value has dropped off drastically. I do like the offense. I think Ben Johnson there is a good thing. I just think that they're going to be moving forward with the younger guys this year as opposed to DJ Moore there at the wideout position. All right, let's go to tight ends. Kevin, wrap us up here. Tight ends, who you got?
Okay, so this is not going to shock anybody, but Kyle Pitts is tight end here.
I thought about that too.
Yeah. All right. I can't do it. I know we've talked about him before, so I guess I don't really need to go into this too deeply, but he's entering his 5th year. That's hard to believe, number one. So there's no more youth here. Yeah. He's in his 5th year. And after 1,000 yards his first year, but that's been it since then. His let's see here. He has 10 touchdown catches in 4 years. 10. And that's all he has. And I know it, but it's gone up every year. He had 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's not saying a whole lot right here. And we want to see what kind of commitment he has or the connection he has with the new quarterback in there and everything. But I'm hopefully that you were able to get rid of this guy at some point, because I am not sold anymore. There's nowhere this guy can go to me, but stay at least where his production level. It's not going up to me. It's you're stuck with him, and I'm glad I'm not. So the bus can certainly pass me by, and I won't even wave because I want nothing whatever to do with this guy.
What's that? Oh, low-hanging fruit. Kyle Pitts there, the tight end. I'm with you, Kevin.
Well, there's a lot of low-lying fruit when it comes to the tight end position to begin with.
There is.
And there's still people that want to believe in this guy.
Sure. Well, they've not owned him before.
Don't do it.
That's the only people you'll find that believe in him are the ones that have never had him on their roster before. All right, Brian, you're tight end.
I was to go Kyle Pitts because it's so obvious, but I went with Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, okay.
Dak Prescott being hurt in 2024 really hurt him, mostly because there was such a big drop-off in the amount of targets he got. He had 102 targets in 2023. That dropped to 86 in 2024. And what did the Cowboys do this offseason? They went out and they brought in George Pickens. You don't think that's going to cause some more? Ferguson goes from being the second option in that passing game. Now he's the third option in that passing game. And when you're going to be in Schottenheimer's offense, which is very big on the run heavy and trying to establish play action, when it does come time to throw the ball, they're going to be looking at CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens before they look at Ferguson. So I can see his numbers taking another dip, or at the very least staying the same, which is not what you want from Ferguson.
All right. Very good. Very good. I'm going to go Mark Andrews. We talked about him a few weeks ago. I like Likely better than Andrews this year in Baltimore, and maybe they vulture each other, out of relativity, but Baltimore made it a point to improve their receiving options this offseason. That worries me a little bit too. I love Mark Andrews, but this year I can't draft him. Value wise, he's going to be too high for me. And ultimately I got burned last year and I have a hard time getting over that. So I'll be drafting. I have no problem with drafting Likely this year. But when it comes to Mark Andrews, he's the one I'm just going to say, you know what? You rode the bus last year, but you're not allowed admission this year onto my bus at the very least. So All right, there you go, guys. That's the lead block. We spent plenty of time on that, but I liked it. Good conversation. Great insight there as well. That's the lead block. Check out last week's lead block to know who is on the bus. This week, we checked out who we're not allowing on. That's the duds for 2025. All right, let's head into segment number 2. We call it the cover 2. All right, couple things to talk about here. This is the segment we usually will talk about NFL news. Not a whole lot of NFL news out there these days. You can talk about a speeding ticket if we wanted to. We won't.
Why not?
I do want to hit on this because Brian has a lot of experience with Daniel Jones. Athletic reported this week that Daniel Jones is the clear number 1 right now in Indianapolis, which shouldn't be a surprise considering Richardson's been hurt. And everything that happened last year. But Daniel Jones is listed as QB1. It's not set in stone. It's not locked in, all that kind of stuff. When I heard it, I thought it makes sense. But I'm curious. I know we made fun of him a little bit last week, but Brian, can you take off your Giants hat for just a second?
Okay.
And because my dad can't do this when we talk about the Bears. He can't say anything nice. Nothing good can happen. All right. So Daniel Jones, are you able to look at this at all and in any way see that there could be a positive in Indianapolis for Daniel Jones? Or do you think this is all just, let's lose for the next 2 years and get Arch Manning?
Well, I think they should lose the next 2 years and get Arch Manning. That should be what their start is. But, Daniel Jones has shown flashes in the past. Like there is, we all joke about how Daniel Jones got 6 years. There is a reason for it. Like you go back and you think of his rookie year, he did throw 24 touchdowns that year. He also had a lot of turnovers, but there were flashes. In the Pat Shurmur offense, he looked good. In first year Brian Dable's offense, he looked really good. That Minnesota playoff game is one of the best games I've ever seen a quarterback play, whether it was his arm and his legs. At this point in his career, I don't know if the rushing upside is there for him, but if he can just be a game manager and just kind of, be like that guy, not going to win you a game, but 5 to 7 yards, not make any mistakes, he could be a guy to keep Indianapolis competitive. I don't think they'll win a lot of games, but at least they won't get blown out. I think they'll lose a lot of one-score games if everything goes perfectly for Jones at this point.
Kevin, any thoughts on Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes for the Colts?
Well, if you're asking me to believe that everything is going to go perfectly well with him, that's not something I'm willing to believe. And this is, I just talked about their running game, and no, not their running game. I'm sorry, but what are they going to do? Who's he going to? Offensive line, receivers, all that was all predicated on Richardson being the quarterback. And it's not going to happen. And I think that his rushing upside, as you mentioned, Brian, is not going to be there. And that was a big part of his game, especially if you're talking about taking a guy and having him as your number 2 quarterback. The rushing upside would be big. That's not the case anymore. So I am not excited at all. Even if it was Richardson, I would not be excited about what's going on with this team at all. So just hope that he doesn't wind up getting hurt some way, somehow, that he can stay upright. That's about the best I'm hoping for him this year.
Yeah, I look at the situation. I think the one thing that Daniel Jones really has going for him, I think he's going to win that locker room over. Like, he's going to come in and work. He's going to have the maturity that Anthony Richardson lacked in. Richardson's clearly the most talented athlete of the group, and I think that still potential for him to have a good NFL career, but I don't know that he can ever win that locker room back after last season and what went on. Whereas Jones is going to come in and he's just going to put his head down and work, and he's not going to do anything crazy. He's not going to be in the headlines for anything, nothing like that. He's just going to be there day in and day out, boring as can be. And if he can go in and he can do exactly what Brian said, game manage a bit, and maybe occasionally have a play with his legs, here and there, and just different things, create some things, because they got weapons. Michael Pittman's solid. Josh Downs is good. Pierce is fine. They draft Tyler Warren. I love Jonathan Taylor. So they've got some options there. The question is will the coaching staff, will they put it together? I'm not completely sold on Shane Steichen or Jim Bob Cooter for that matter. And so I'm intrigued to see how it works out. I'm kind of cheering for him, honestly. I think there's potential to have like an Alex Smith-like career for Daniel Jones going forward. Because change of scenery, okay, here's my doubts. Change of scenery is good. I think that's a good thing. But he did play for Brian Daboll, who is known as a guy that makes things work for quarterbacks, and it didn't work ultimately for Daniel Jones. That's what scares me. But sometimes, and the New York media is not, kind. So sometimes getting
we're not
getting away and new environment, it can really wake up and revive a career. So that's the way I look. I think the ceiling for Daniel Jones right now is Alex Smith. Like that's where he can be. Because Alex Smith had that, athleticism to a degree. He was a game manager though, and he won a lot of football games doing that. That's kind of where I see his ceiling. I see his floor as being Daniel Jones. So we'll see which one comes from there. All right, guys, real quick, I want to hit on most improved and our team that had the best offseason and team that had the worst offseason. Kevin, I think I know where you're going with worst based off of some comments earlier. So let's start there. Worst offseason for what team this year?
Well, the worst offseason, as you mentioned, it's probably no surprise. That's the New Orleans Saints. And a lot of that is because of a lack of communication, I think. Because, Derek Carr retired, but he retired after the draft was over.
Yeah.
And if they had communicated a little bit better between him and management, maybe this would have been known. Maybe they still would have taken Tyler Slow or Shao or however you pronounce this guy's name.
Shuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was they drafted him with the idea that he was going to sit back and learn and everything else. And now he might be the starter. That's bad. Or it's Spencer Rattler. That's bad. And Kellen Moore is a rookie head coach. We don't know what we're getting out of him.
Sure.
And Brandon Staley is a question mark to me as a defensive coordinator. And they did nothing to help their their defense. That's a problem to me. I mentioned Chris Olave, but this is what they have behind Chris Olave. Okay, that would be Rashid Shaheed. How many catches he have? 20. Okay, Brandon Cooks had 26 catches, and that's it. That's behind him. So they have no receivers to speak of. Tight end Johnson, kind of okay, but like I said, other than Kamara, they've got nothing going on. They did nothing to help their defensive line, and so there was no big when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, and so this is an F to me, complete F, maybe minus. When it comes to the New Orleans Saints offseason, like I said, they knew he was going to be hurt. Maybe he was going to miss, but they did nothing for that. And so just for that alone, they are the losingest team in the offseason.
I'm going to counter that, Kevin, with I think New Orleans had the best offseason. And here's why. You ready? They did not take a quarterback in the first round. Instead, they took a quarterback in the second round, so it looks like they're trying. They fail this year miserably. If Arch Manning, for some reason, comes out at the end of this year, they're sitting in the prime spot to get him. And there's a lot of ties, obviously, to New Orleans and the Manning family. If, for some reason, as we expect, Manning does not come out this year, New Orleans can go draft the best defensive player in the draft at number 1 this year, and they can lose again next year. And they'll say, well, we got to give Tyler Shuck another year. Got to give him one more chance. And then they get Arch Manning sitting for him the next year. They lined this up beautifully. So a round of applause to New Orleans for failing at the best way possible. So there you go. There's the counter to Kevin's F- for New Orleans.
F- to me.
Okay. All right, Brian, worst offseason for what team this year?
I mean, if that's the plan for New Orleans, hats off. That is 3D chess on a whole different level. For me, I'm going with another team that Kevin's not too fond of, the San Francisco 49ers. I think they lost all their pending free agents, or at least all the big ones. Like, they lost Leonard Floyd, Javon Hargrave, Aaron Banks, Javarius Ward, the list goes on. Trade away guys like Deebo Samuel, who I know I just, trashed in the previous segment, but still, in the Niners offense, he probably could have given them something. And they also traded Jordan Mason. Didn't really get anyone big of note. I mean, Brian Huff is an interesting guy, but he didn't really play well in Philly. And I feel like if you don't play well in Philly, like in that defense, where are you going to play well? And they gave a big contract to Brock Purdy, who Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, but like, are we really going to sit here and say he deserves that kind of contract? Should be a top paid quarterback in the league? I don't think so. I think he's an average quarterback. I would love him on the Giants, but I've had to deal with Daniel Jones for 6 years. I would love anybody on the Giants right now. So, and this stat, courtesy of CBS Sports, they had a $264 million free agent spending deficit. That's the largest in NFL history during an offseason. So, give me the Niners for the worst offseason.
I think that's definitely up there. I think that's a good pick. I'm really intrigued with Ricky Pearsall to see what year 2 looks like for him. Purdy being healthy, all that kind of stuff too. Because Ayuk, there's still talks that Ayuk could get traded. You have no idea. Actually, I heard the craziest thing I heard was they're going to trade Ayuk to Washington for Terry McLaurin and then reunite Dabo and Ayuk. I don't think that's happening. But Kittle's getting older. They really don't have a good tight end behind them. They signed 2 guys. Neither of them are known as pass catchers.
Yeah.
Jawan Jennings has moments of really good, but yikes. Brandon Ayuk, he's a basket case in many ways too. So, and McCaffrey, I almost picked him for my dud in the first segment just because of injury. You just never know when he's going to give you a full season and when he's not as well. So I like that. I like their draft. I thought they had a good draft overall. And of course, Kevin, they signed Trey Brown, the Seattle cornerback, that I'm sure will make the world of difference for San Francisco this year.
Yeah, that's all the difference you can make right there. And of course, if San Francisco deconstructs, that makes me happy.
Sure.
And so I'm not going to give them, any kind of bad grade because I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
They did a great job according to
That's right.
Big,
yay 49ers. All right.
Their big free agent signing was Thomas Morstead, punter from the New York Jets.
And when it comes to Purdy, there was really nothing else they could have done.
Correct.
Because of the situation, they take a quarterback, what was it, 2nd overall or 3rd, whatever it was years ago, and that didn't work out. And he was down here for a couple of years, and he's somewhere else now. He's not in Dallas anymore.
I think they could sign Trey Lance if they wanted to right now and give him a second time. No, Purdy is, I
think I got $3 in my wallet. They can give that to him. But so 49ers, I'm cool with them having a bad off season. So go ahead and keep doing it.
All right, Brian, best off season for a team.
I had the Vikings. I know we just talked about McCarthy, but they did everything to make McCarthy's life easy. They upgraded the offensive line with Ryan Kelly and Wolf Rise. They built a good defense. They kept Brian Flores, which we heard rumors he might become a head coach. Keeping him around is big. This was a top unit last year. Upgraded that pass rush with Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, which was a need. Concern with the secondary. They lost Keon Byram, some age in there, but for the additions they made on the pass rush, I think it offsets whatever they might lose at the secondary. So I think their defense will continue to be elite, and McCarthy is in a perfect situation to succeed right now.
All right. Fair enough. Kevin, best offseason for what team?
So I'm staying in the division, unfortunately for you, Vince. I'm going with the Chicago Bears having the best offseason because really when you get right down to it, Mr. Ben Johnson as their head coach. That is a big, big signing for them. It gives the entire organization some to really kind of hold their hat to because coaches in Chicago, I don't know where they find them. It's in the ditch or whatever it is they're doing. That doesn't work. But Ben Johnson is an exciting hire. And most importantly, though, they added to their offensive line, which they needed to do because Williams was sacked more times than anybody else. And if you want your young quarterback, just ask another car down there in Houston what that's like. And so they addressed that, and they brought in with Mr. Loveland. We talked about him last week. So they brought in some receivers. They're upgrading their offense all the way around. So Mr. Williams has zero reasonings why he can't succeed now. They put him in a successful situation. So all he has to do is just go out there and do it. And for that, I give them they're the best best team in the offseason this year.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. Actually, I think Ben Johnson was a great hire. I think only the Patriots had a better hire this offseason. They bring in some offensive talent. They're doing what needs to be done to protect Caleb Williams, to give him weapons. They could still improve the offensive line a bit, but they signed 3 interior offensive linemen in free agency, and they still got young tackles. So I agree with you on that one. And I would just say for worst, I look at maybe Buffalo because they really didn't do much to get better. And I throw in Detroit just because of what they lost with both coordinators this year. I think that's tough, really, really tough. But I think that both of what you guys brought up are better options than Detroit because they lost. Yeah, it's going to hurt worse for those guys. But nonetheless. All right. Very good. Anything else we need to cover in cover 2?
Nope.
All right. Well, let's head into segment number 3, the read option. All right, for our read option today, we're looking at some pairings. We'll give the guys here an option to choose this player or that player. We're going with some guys that are not necessarily the top of the line guys this week, and I have a feeling I know where we're going on at least one, if not 2, if not 3 of these. But still, I wanted to ask the question. So let's start it off with tight ends, and we'll go Mason Taylor, rookie for the New York Jets, or Elijah Arroyo, rookie for the Seattle Seahawks. Kevin, you're our incumbent Seahawks coverage guy, so we'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, I don't know if you're doing this on purpose, that you're trying to set me up as I could be accused of being either A, a homer, or B, that the Seattle faithful will be upset with me.
It's a new segment we call Homer or Hater. All right, Kevin,
okay,
are you a homer or are you a hater?
This is the interesting, pick to have to make here. And Mason Taylor is already the number 1 tight end in the New York Jet offense. And Elijah Arroyo, and the issue with Seattle really hasn't known what to do with a tight end for a long, long time. And they've got Noah Fant over there. But I think Noah Fant is right now, he's the 11th highest paid tight end. Well, he was the 20th ranked tight end. So this is not working. So I think they're going to get rid of him or drop him, or if he takes less money and stays on the team, then I don't like Arroyo for this year at all. Going forward, I think it's going to be fine. But because we don't know what's going to happen with Noah Fant at this point in time, I'm going with Mason Taylor with the Jets just simply because he's the number 1 tight end on that team.
Okay, I was not expecting that. Brian, Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo?
I'm in the same boat as Kevin. I'm going Mason Taylor solely because he is not only the number 1 option at tight end for the Jets, but the second option in that passing game behind Garrett Wilson. Or if he's not, he can very quickly become that. Justin Fields had great track records with tight ends. And like Kevin said, Arroyo's buried behind Noah Fant. He's buried behind guys like JSN and Cooper Kupp and maybe like a Trey Bolton if he breaks out. So I just see the path for Taylor getting more receptions in the next few seasons than I do for Arroyo.
Man, I came ready to defend Mason Taylor, and I don't have to do it.
That's
I love it. Elijah Arroyo, by the way, if you look at college, more explosive. That's just
absolutely
his style.
No question about
explosive.
that.
Sam Darnold, I like that too. I like both fits, quarterback to tight end fits with these guys. I think Justin Fields he has a track record with tight ends. Sam Darnold does as well. So I think both of them are in good situations long term. Man, I really thought you guys would go the other direction. So I like it. We're in agreement. A clean sweep.
The other issue with Mr. Arroyo is that he's not a good blocker. Sure. And that's going to be, if he can't get any better, that's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why Noah Fant's there. He can block and they can throw it. They can throw it to Arroyo. I like it. All right, let's go to some Jaguars running backs. The backups, seemingly so right now in Jacksonville. Travis Etienne or Basul Tutin. Why I thought of this pairing was there's been a lot of talk about Etienne getting traded possibly, although the team says they're not doing that, but there's a whole lot of smoke around that. Tutin comes in as this, later draft pick that a lot of people are high on. So they've got 3 guys right now. They can't all touch the ball a lot, at least this year in Jacksonville. So, Brian, are you going with Travis Etienne or are you going with Basul Tutin?
This is a tough one for me, but I'm going to go to Tutin, however you say his name. And this is more from what we saw from Etienne last season. We saw a 450-yard drop in his rushing. Average yards per attempt has fallen from 5.1 in his rookie season to 3.7. That's just in 2 years. And a lot of inconsistency last year. And Tutin does a lot of the stuff Etienne does. He's a good receiving back. He's going to find the field, a lot quicker than Etienne does, especially if he's another season where he's just not effective and inconsistent. So I'll take Tutin because he's younger and more, I don't know what he is, whereas Etienne, I know he's an inconsistent guy who has done nothing but regress in his 3 years in the NFL.
Okay. Kevin, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, there are too many cooks in this kitchen for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so that's first. And there are issues all over the place with both of these players. And Etienne, as you mentioned, he's went from 11 touchdowns to 3 in 1 year. And he lost, as you mentioned, Brian, almost half of his yardage from one year to the next. And Mr. Tutin, he's known to fumble the football. So that's not good. But this is Dynasty. If we're talking about regular, then I'm not going anywhere with any of these players. But
yeah.
And I think that Etienne winds up getting traded because that makes way too much sense for both parties here. And if he does get traded, then I'm going to change my answer. But for the moment, because this is Dynasty and he's the way younger player, I'm going with Tutin as well.
Yeah, if you Etienne kind of like the Kyle Pitts of running backs. He's never really – he's been better than Kyle Pitts, but he's never really hit that expectation that we had for him in the NFL, his elite athleticism, his ability to catch the ball, all that kind of stuff. He's just never been that. And you could blame some of that on the coaching staff for sure, because you can look at everybody else with the exception of Brian Thomas Jr. and you say no one has performed up to expectation in Jacksonville. So, is this the year? Is this the right coaching staff, or does he get pushed off and eventually traded or maybe even cut? Who knows how all that works. All it takes is one injury somewhere else and someone goes, hey, I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot with them. So we will see, but good thoughts for sure. All right. Last one is wide receivers, second year guys, Keon Coleman in Buffalo and Xavier Legette in Carolina. And obviously Coleman has the better quarterback. There's no question about that. But I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on these guys. So Keon Coleman or Xavier Legette. We'll start with you, Kevin.
Okay, so the thing that really, really stands out between these two guys, taking away the quarterbacks or whatever else, is that Keon Coleman averaged 19.2 yards per catch. And that's eye-opening right there. And simply because of that alone, and also here's a bit of trivia. I don't know if you guys knew this. Do you know who his cousin is?
Yes. Remind me.
His cousin is CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
And so if there's anybody that can teach a guy how to catch a football, it would be CeeDee Lamb. And so for those two things alone right there, and I'm going with Mr. Coleman here. I think he can blossom in and take over as the number one wide receiver in that offense. And if you're going to be a number one wide receiver, you might as well do it in Buffalo. And Mr. Legette is going to be a quality guy, but he's not going to average 19.2 yards per catch. So I'm going with Mr. Coleman, and it's really not that big of a decision here for me.
All right, Brian, your thoughts?
I'm in agreement again. I'm going with Keon Coleman for the exact same reason. That 19.2 jumps right off the page, and he also has more receiving yards on less receptions than Legette did. And also, we talk about how Coleman can become this wide receiver one. The Panthers just drafted McMillan. He should step into camp right away and be the wide receiver one. So unless Xavier Legette has, one of the greatest sophomore seasons we ever seen in NFL history, he's going to be a wide receiver too, going to get less targets, going to get less of that volume. Whereas Coleman, I know Shakir had a good year last year, but this was his first breakout year in his third year in the league. Coleman still has that time to become that big receiver. So give me Coleman.
All right. I actually going to go the other direction on this one, guys. And the reason why is because Ted McMillan is now in Carolina. I think that opens the door for Legette. Whereas Keon Coleman, outside of his tight ends, he's the guy in Buffalo. And I'm worried about Buffalo this year. That's a conversation for another day. Obviously, Josh Allen's great. I love him for fantasy, all that kind of good stuff. I think the situation is still better for Keon Coleman, so I do not argue against that. But I think that this is the opportunity for Legette, maybe even make or break year for Legette. Whereas, hey, this is the year you can step up now because you've got a guy on the other side that people have to pay attention to. And it's not, an older guy that they know kind of where his route tree is. This is a guy that's going to take the top off, ideally, there in Carolina. So maybe things open up a little bit for Legette this year. He does have some continuity already there with Bryce. So maybe that helps him as well. They were really close last year in stats and stuff like that. Very similar stats. You'd like to think Coleman takes a step forward, especially from where he was drafted at and all that kind of stuff too. And with Josh Allen, you would like to think he's the better one for sure. I think he's probably the safer one. I think Legette maybe is the one, though, that I think has a little bit more potential sitting there as well. So there we go. All right, there's our read option today. We're going to take a really quick break to hear a word from Righteous Felon Jerky. When we come back, we're entering the red zone to wrap up the show.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon Jerky.
All right, let's enter the red zone. All right, gentlemen, we're wrapping up our Dynasty rankings. You can find them on bellyupsports.com. And we're talking Dynasty wide receivers. And are we anyone surprised? Jamarr Chase, number one overall, great quarterback, has great chemistry, obviously, with Joe Burrow. And no matter, you could talk about the Bengals having the worst offseason had they not signed these guys and still have their offense relatively intact. But you look at the fantasy side of things, and Jamarr Chase, unquestionably wide receiver one.
Yeah, there's nobody that's really worried about whether or not that Chase would be the number one wide receiver. We could argue, I would argue, that he's the number one player in Dynasty, probably in redraft as well. It doesn't really matter. I think I mentioned that regardless of format. Yeah, I did. He's number one, period.
Oh, yeah, without question. There's not much more to say. We'd have Joe Burrow. The only person that could challenge him would be Justin Jefferson. But with all the questions with McCarthy, you don't want to take that risk. You know what, Jamar Chase, with the connection he has to Joe Burrow, he's going to be a great receiver year in, year out.
For sure. Health is the only question mark. As long as he stays healthy, which is with every player. Anytime you're spending a pick 101 on somebody, you just pray that health stays the way it's supposed to, for sure. All right, let's talk about some of these other top receivers, guys, because I'm down on Justin Jefferson, and by down I mean I've got him third or fourth versus second, just because of JJ McCarthy's situation. For whatever reason, I always trust in Dak and CeeDee Lamb and the what they give you. And I have such a hard time at putting Amon-Ra St. Brown as a top two, just because I don't see him as a superstar, and I probably should. He's been amazing these last several years as well. So talk to me kind of about this top tier of guys when it comes to these veteran guys, especially in Jefferson, Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Brian, we'll start with you.
I think, for my opinion, one of the guys you can enter that is Malik Neighbors too as well.
Sure.
From the season we saw last year, I have him as third in my rankings. Could be a little homerism, but if you look at what happened, he had over, 1,000 yards with the carousel that is the Giants quarterback room. And now he's got Russell Wilson, an actual adult quarterback that's going to push the ball down the field. He's a perfect guy for that spot. I'm with you. Don't love Amon-Ra St. Brown just because I just think there's better options out there. Like, I like Puka Nacua. I like Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's kind of on that borderline. Maybe another good season to get over that hump. And I'm a little down on CeeDee Lamb just because I don't trust Dak Prescott. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I think we overrate him a little bit just because he's Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He gets the most primetime games, and he plays well, but I don't think he's at that elite level.
I agree. As an NFL quarterback, I agree. Fantasy wise, I love the numbers he puts up as long as he's healthy, which he's not always healthy. So that's another problem, of course, as well. Kevin, your thoughts at kind of the top group of guys at wide receiver?
Well, when we sat down and did this, I've got Jefferson at number 2, CeeDee Lamb at 3, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4, and Malik Neighbors at 5. Now, based on what we talked about last week, if I was to sit down and do this now, Mr. Malik Neighbors would be number 3 on my list, because Dak, as you mentioned, we don't know as far as our offensive line, what are they going to do with that, the running game, and so there are questions there. I actually thought about possibly going with Dak Prescott as the guy that I'm not getting on the bus with. So, but I didn't do that. But if we're talking about Dynasty, especially in Dynasty, I'm going with Neighbors, number 3 overall, based on youth and everything else. And that's a real easy call for me. When I was doing this, that wasn't that easy. But when I really looked into this, just like, we got in depth, I really, 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 really like Mr. Neighbors. I'm putting him right now at number 3 instead of number 5.
I like it. We have him cumulatively in Belly Up Sports as redraft as the 6th overall player, wide receiver 4 in redraft leagues. And so you throw that into the mix of Dynasty. Yeah, I think we all go up a little bit more on Neighbors. And obviously, Brian, you already had him up there as well. I just realized I misspelled his name, so sorry about that.
That's all right.
My bad. Yeah, I think that's great. Then when you look at the other things that you're looking at in here, you look at the young guys. Brian Thomas, you brought up Brian as well. Drake London, who's improving, and with Kyle Pitts not really a threat to steal anything from him. I would throw JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba into that group as well. Ladd McConkey's in that group. Marvin Harrison's in that group. Like, these young guys right now, when you're looking at dynasty receivers, you are holding out hope for some of these quarterbacks to show up, but ultimately it's a pretty nice deep group of guys right now at this dynasty wide receiver level, right, Brian?
Oh, it's a great group right now. Like, you have, like, obviously I think Neighbors is the prize, but you have 4 or 5 guys that you can feel confident building your wide receiver core around, whether it's a McConkey because he has Justin Herbert, or if you want to take a shot that Michael Penix is going to be, a good quarterback in fantasy, and he's going to get numbers for Drake London. Like, you have those 5 guys that maybe if you want to go for a weaker group, like maybe you want to go running back first, you can kind of sit and wait and still get someone really good for your lineup.
Yeah. Yep. Great point. Kevin, thoughts on those guys?
Well, a lot of these guys, when we get past Nacua, I think you could pretty much put all these guys into a big pot and just kind of shake them around, and whoever comes out, you could put him right after that And as you mentioned, the quarterbacks here are going to dictate where a lot of these guys wind up. We're talking about Nico Collins down there. Is he going to have the first year quarterback or the second year? And then when it comes to Mr. Thomas, what kind of quarterback is he going to have? Because we've talked about this before, Mr. Lawrence.
Yeah.
What is he going to do? And then Drake London. What's Penix going to do? So I would be happy with if I wind up with any of these guys after the first couple of them and just take them and be happy. And I would just go with it and see what I would take next.
When you get to the rookies this year, you're looking at Ted McMillan in Carolina. You're looking at Travis Hunter in Jacksonville, Egbuka in Tampa. We talked about him a bit a few weeks ago as well. And if there's another rookie that you want to throw in there, feel free to. But how are we feeling about these rookies? Kind of talk about where you have these rookies at on your list and how you shake out in your dynasty list. Kevin, we'll start with you, Ben.
Well, when it comes to Hunter, his problem is, as I just mentioned, he's got a wide receiver one firmly ahead of him.
Yep.
In that pecking order. And if he's playing offense and defense, that's still a situation where I'm not really ready to buy in completely. They might try it, but this is the NFL.
Yeah.
And both ends are going to suffer if he's doing that. And so I would much rather have the wide receiver because he's a young guy himself. And so Hunter, just because of the guy that's ahead of him, I put him behind some of these other rookies, even though he's the Heisman Trophy winner and his talent's way above some of these other guys. But the situation that he's in parks him behind some of these other rookies in my mind.
Brian?
I'm really in love with McMillan this year. Hunter scares me, like Kevin said, with Trevor Lawrence and his relation with Thomas, and the fact that he's going to play both ways. We don't know how long that's going to last. We don't know. He might get taken off offense completely at one point. I don't think it's going to happen, but that is a big possibility. And Mbuka, it's kind of like we said with Jacksonville, too many cooks in the kitchen. They got a lot of mouths to feed. McMillan is a guy who I mocked him going to Carolina. I love that fit with Bryce Young. I think it's going to elevate both their games. I think having a tall receiver, they're going to look for him more. He's going to be the wide receiver number one. I have him at 17, but I think he could be a steal for you. I think he's like a wide receiver 2 this year and could be a wide receiver 1 in the next few years.
Very nice. Last guy I want to talk about is Detroit Lions, Jameson Williams. I'm scared to death of drafting Jameson Williams. He's young. He's talented. He's a big play threat. All these great things. But I go back to it. Ben Johnson is gone. I know Jared Goff has proven plenty of time and time again he can do it. I don't trust it. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is the go-to if I'm drafting the Lions guy, and I love Laporta at tight end too. Those are the two guys I'm going before Williams. In dynasty leagues, you still got this young guy in Williams. How do we figure out Jameson Williams? What's our confidence level with Jameson Williams, Brian?
It's kind of low for me right now, just because it's not just what Williams is, it's the uncertainty of the Lions offense as a whole. We don't know how this Lions offense is going to do now that Ben Johnson has left. So for that, there's so many other young options I can go with. I much rather take a shot on one of them than a wide receiver 2 in an offense kind of in flux.
Sure. Kevin?
The issues that he's had is the injury problems.
Yeah.
But I think he's left that behind. And I still have confidence that the Detroit Lions, even though they have different coordinators or whatever, I still believe in that offense. So I'm a little higher on him than Brian is. I have him ranked at 29th. I'm looking right here. So he's inside my top 30. And if I had a chance to get him as a number 2 wide receiver in that Detroit Lions offense, I think I would do it.
This may sound weird for fantasy, but I'm terrified of immature players because You just don't know legally if they're going to get into trouble, get suspended. He's been suspended before. Hopefully he's past that. He learned his lesson. They got better staff around him to slap him around a little bit if he's going to do something stupid. But and I like to give guys a chance. I'm not saying you can't grow up. I'm not saying you can't learn from mistakes, all that kind of stuff. But fantasy stuff, I look at it and I go, immaturity costs games. And that scares me too with Jameson Williams. Injury is probably the biggest concern. After that, what's going to go on in Detroit with the staff changes. And then after that, it's the immaturity. But there's just too much for me that adds up when it comes to Jameson Williams that I'd probably pass all around on him, especially this year. Maybe he has a good year this year. Everything, all the concerns that I have with Ben Johnson being gone, maybe they get calmed this year too. And next year it's a different story for me. But for this year, Jameson Williams scares me to death. So
that's why he's a good buy low opportunity. Yep. Because if he goes out there and blows the doors off the place, then
it didn't cost you anything. If he doesn't blow the doors,
that's right. If it doesn't happen, okay. But if it does, then you're great. Then maybe you can sell high.
Sure.
But if you don't get him right now when it's this low, you're not going to get him. You're either not going to get him because you don't want him, or because you can't get him.
Sure. All right. Very good, guys. Next week we get into redrafts. We're talking top 30. We're gonna discuss. We have some vastly different rankings, especially in the bottom half of that top 30. So I'm excited to discuss that next week. Kevin, tell us about your content, what you got going on this week, where people can find you.
Well, you can always find me on Twitter at Kevin62 WILSDA, and you can always find me on the Belly Up website. Got 2 articles out within the last week or so. One, I look at the top college football games coming into the year, and at least what I believe they are. And then I wrote an article just yesterday on player injury updates, because there are a lot of players that are very star players in baseball that are hurt. So you got that out there. Of course, you got the Belly Up Fantasy.
That's a fantasy baseball article.
That's right.
About the injuries, yeah.
Right. Which is also applicable to regular baseball. So that's out there. And, of course, the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. We did it yesterday. And we talked about some draft strategies in fantasy baseball. So check that out. And Saturday, I was on the No Credentials Required show. Talk some baseball there, because Brian, baseball has not been kind to the New York area the past week or so.
No, it has not.
And so they're both New York boys. I don't know why they wanted to bring that up. But they wanted to discuss it. So we did do that. So you can find me in all those different places, and just go to the Belly Up website and check and ask, go in there, Kevin Wilson, do a search, and bam, you'll find it all right there.
All right, Brian, talk about your content, what you got going on this week, and where people can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at BrianPG1016. Posting all my articles there. A lot of hockey coverage going on right now with free agency and the draft coming up in less than a week. We have the draft Friday. Free agency starts Tuesday. 3rd and 10 podcast did it this morning. It's out now. We diagnosed the Mets' problems as me being a dire Mets fan and watching every single game of this horrific stretch as they blew yet another one tonight. But that is for a different show. Next on Thursday, we're going to be doing our top college quarterbacks to watch this year. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. All right. We're getting so close to draft season for fantasy football.
Can't wait.
And this show, every single week, we're going to get you rankings. We're going to have these discussions and these debates about certain players, who you should take, who you should pass on, all those kinds of things. So make sure you tune in every Tuesday night. We're live on the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page and the Belly Up Sports Twitter page. And then after the show is done, it goes up on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel and the Belly Up Fantasy Live Football podcast, wherever you get your podcasts as well. And as we have these conversations, feel free to throw in the comments your thoughts on these things as well. As for me, you can find me Thursday night live with my dad talking NFL football. We're starting our NFL preview this week. We are starting with the NFC East, So we're going to have fun with that. We just finished our college football previews. You can find all that on the Sports Stove Football Show podcast, or again on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, the Sports Stove Football Show there as well. If you love to see me and my dad's beautiful faces, you can watch us on YouTube there as well. All right, you can find me on social media, by the way, at Sports Stove as well. I probably should have put that up for everyone to see throughout the program. Maybe next week we will have that available for you as well. Boom, there it is. If you stuck around this
Look
long,
at that.
now you get to see it. We sure appreciate you tuning into the episode this week. We'll be back next week with more. And check out bellyupsports.com because we're dropping rankings. We already took the top 30 out there for PPR, and we'll start positional rankings here very soon as well. And there's other articles, fantasy football related, on the website too. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. Have a great day.
Have a great week.